Welcome to RPG Book Club LongCast, the podcast where we play a little bitty bit of a biggie big video game and talk about how it makes us feel. I am Sam Allman.
I'm David Bernard Hauk.
And I'm Maddie Grace Webben.
And this week we will be playing the rest of Chapter 11 of Final Fantasy XIII and talking about how it makes us feel. And normally, because these are not the main podcast where we talk about our week, we just dive straight in, but we are going to start doing a top 5 every week of random things. And because this is Final Fantasy and we decided to be on brand, we are going to kick off for our inaugural top 5 segment, our top 5 Final Fantasy summons. Bernard, take it away.
Yeah, we were like, it's sort of weird to do the intro music, then say 30 words, and then do game music. So we decided to put a segment here.
Yes.
So number 5 is Kujata from 7. I love Kujata because it's basically just a big boar, and that's it. And I don't think it's appeared in any other Final Fantasy.
I'm clicking on it right now because I have a list open on my phone. I don't remember this, and what the heck?
I didn't remember it until I looked at the list. And my list is tenuous because I can never make decisions about things. Mm-hmm. But number 5, I'm saying today, is Kujata, the pig, because
nice.
I love it.
Pretty good.
Next is Ultima from 12, because it looks cool as fuck.
That's right.
If I recall correctly, that's the one that is sort of lifting up its dress and there's a shit coming out. I don't know what. It looks sort of like a city.
Yeah, it's like a castle under its dress.
Yeah. Then next is Anima from 10 because it's big and freaky.
Yeah.
Go on.
And then Titan from 15 because he's just a really, 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 really big dude.
Yeah.
And then I think number 1 is the Shiva sisters from 13.
Shiva sisters are really good.
Yeah. They turn into a motorcycle. What other Final Fantasy summon turns into a motorcycle?
Yeah. I don't know if I have my 5 super solid, but one of my all-time favorites has always been Alexander. Specifically, Alexander from 6. If you recall Alexander, it's first of all, 6 has that kind of steampunk vibe, right? And Alexander is already kind of a steampunky machine. It's first of all, what is it? When you're doing FF6 though, what it looks like is it looks like a giant fucking vehicle or tower. It looks like some kind of enormous walking Titan factory thing. It's clearly a machine of some kind. And it's suspended by steam. It's shooting steam out of its bottom part treads. But what's cool about 6 is that the way it's portrayed, it seems like it exists far off in the distance. So it's you summon the monster and it doesn't show up and say, "What's up?" What happens is, actually, I think in one of the 3D games, it literally is on the other side of a nearby mountain. And it's here's what it's like a fucking Metal Gear. It's like a Metal Gear's 10 miles away, and it rears up and fires a fucking volley of missiles that then come onto your dudes. It's always something along that vibe. It's great. So that's one of my favorites.
I'm looking at Alexander in FF6 now, and it looks really fucking cool.
Yeah. It's just dope.
Alexander is Hope's summon in this game, right?
It is, and I have not used it. And yeah, another one that I love a lot is Yojimbo from FF10. It's cool because it's Yojimbo. That's weird. That's not normally what you get in these games. I also believe it's very strange mechanically, though I forget in what way.
Does it involve using money?
Yes, it does. Yeah, some kind of money thing. Another one of my favorites is the one in FF7 where I actually forget what it is. It might just be like Moogle or Cactuar or something. I don't remember what it is. I actually just remember the mechanics of it. The mechanics of it is that it does 1 point of damage for every time you've run away in the game. So is it Chocomog? It might be Chocomog. So that takes a really long time, obviously, very, very long time. But if you literally were to just like get in a battle and then hold down the shoulder buttons and run from the battle, and you did that like 10 blajillion times, well, then it would do 10 blajillion damage, which is really fun. That's 3 that I've said so far. 4, I like Shiva, okay, because I'm a lesbian, okay, and she's hot, duh. But it's actually really cool. In every game, they find a different way to make her look cool and hot.
Yeah.
Like they get really, considering she's literally just like scantily clad ice lady, it's really phenomenal how many different ways they have found to make a scantily clad ice lady.
Absolutely.
Sam, you do some while I think of one more.
Okay, so Shiva was also definitely on mine. I think I was going to land on Final Fantasy X's Shiva, just because the way she's like
great.
She's like barefoot and just like walks out and just like commands the whole fucking room and then ices people is just it's a whole deal.
I think 8's my favorite, but yeah.
8 was like I was like waffling back and forth between it, but I did land on 8's Ifrit. There's just something about that Ifrit that I like. I also really love Anima, but in the interest of not just saying the same things, I'll say something that's not exactly the same, but Alexander, but in Final Fantasy IX, because the whole first town is the town of Alexandria, and then you come back after the whole summoner subplot has happened and you realize that the whole town is Alexander.
I had totally forgotten that.
I did not remember that. That fucking rules.
It's fucking...
I remember now, but I had forgotten. Yeah, that's so
It's
cool.
been so long since I've played 9.
As usual, FF9 is like the ultimate fan service game because they're like, we know Alexander is the coolest summon in the series, so we're going to give it the special treatment.
Yeah. Let's see. Do you have any more?
Yeah, I got one more. I forgot about this. I literally had forgotten until just now. Zeramus appears as a summon in FF12. Zeramus, aka the boss of FF4. That's stupid and funny, and it looks good. So I love that on principle because FF4 is awesome, and Zeramus is a great looking boss.
Let's see. I think I need 2 more. I really like the Leviathan boss fight, if that counts, in Final Fantasy 15. I just thought it was huge, and I really fucking like it. Yeah, as a summon, I feel it was just like mid, like actually using it in the game, but the fucking boss fight for it was...
Let's think about FF15. Shout out to FF15 because FF15 wasn't built this way, but it kind of was a total like throwback retro fan service game. Even though it's the most modern FF game in terms of game design, it was like a modern game design that's meant to throw back to old classic FF. Like it had so many references to like, remember how it used like FF1 designs for like the imps and stuff, like literally all the way back to the very first game in the series in terms of like the visual design. Anyway, they really highlight the summons because in that game, every summon, it's not just a thing you acquire. It's not just a battle. It's a whole fucking plot beat, right? Like Titan is this whole fucking thing. Rama is a whole fucking thing. Leviathan is an outrageous fucking thing where it's like the whole town is in this crisis because Leviathan's attacking it. It's this like hour-long sequence. They really make every summon insanely cool in that game.
Yeah. Let's see. So my last one I think I will just no, actually, I was going to be vague, but then I remembered a specific thing. So another shout out to Final Fantasy 15. Their Bahamut being a giant fucking Megazord fucking rules. That's the best Bahamut. I was going to blanket statement just Bahamut in general. Every time you see him, he's the fucking coolest thing in the game. But specifically Final Fantasy 15's Bahamut is like when you get it there at the end, I like hooted and hollered. It was
it's very drastically different because Bahamut's been in every FF game and they always come with different ideas for it, but he's still always like a flying winged dragon. Mm-hmm. So to make him a bipedal, like you said, literal Megazord, so cool.
Mm-hmm. All right, your last one, Maddie, and bring us home.
That's all of them. That's it.
You did 5? I thought you were down 1.
No, I didn't. Well, whatever. I just wanted to shout out FF5 in general, or FF15 for being dope overall. That's it.
Yeah, but all of them rule in FF15. All of them could easily be tied for first. So yeah, let's now listen to some Final Fantasy 13 music and dive into the plot for the week.
There's some good music on Pulse.
Yeah. So they accidentally overdo the cool thing where there's no longer random battle music, and because they do it in places where like Erba wasn't like, it was thematically important, but it wasn't like dramatically important, and yet they took away the random battle theme to just have the Erba music, and I feel they did that like 2 or 3 times this week, and I don't think any of them really.
I can see the argument for that, though I'm gonna say, given that this is the point where the game opens up and you get to spend so much time just doing side quests and battling, maybe they thought to themselves, wait, also the point where you can like do a lot more reason to actually grind. Maybe the game designers were like, wait a second, if people are going to be doing a whole lot of grinding, maybe we should make them not have to listen to battle music so much.
Yeah. Unfortunately, this is the best battle music in the entire series, so it's real good.
But it is really good.
Line by Line is a really good track.
Yeah.
Here's my issue with it. Like, not to be a hater, it's dope, but the loop is actually really short. And it's not that the loop is short that's the issue, really. It's that it's very like most battle themes, especially FF ones. They're through composed. They go through multiple segments, like an A section, a B section, a C section, D section, and this one just doesn't really have that. It kind of has an A part and a B part, but hardly even that. It's more like it's got a single A part that goes through a couple different bits, and then it has sort of some noodling in between, and then it starts over. I guess it's got 2 parts. It's got the da 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 da. That's one melody, and the other melody is ba 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 da ba 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 da. But they kind of go together, right? Anyway, just even though it's a beautiful piece of music, like to me, a battle theme has that progression where you go from one thing to another smoothly and kind of have that little journey. FF10 is always my go-to example of this being done perfectly. FF7's battle theme, which I don't particularly love, does do this really well. Anyway, I don't know. That's just like, it feels like it doesn't quite. It just does. It's like a meal that's tasty, but only has like really one flavor, you know. And you're like, could use a little more. Could use a little more there. Anyway, that's my opinion on that song.
Yeah, I like it because if you're in a random battle and you beat it before you get to the B part, you feel like a really badass. Like you deliver the final blow.
I agree with that.
And you're just like, fuck yeah, I did it. But yeah. So Bernard, what happens in this game?
Well, it's big and open, and you sort of go around, and it's not really clear when a optional cutscene is happening or if you're actually on the path to Erba. But
Yeah.
eventually I figured out what the path to Erba was, and I only have one cutscene here that I think was optional, but I think it's important, so I'll start with that. While exploring, the gang arrives at some ruins. Vanille and Fang muse about their past hundreds of years ago. During the battle against Cocoon, Vanille became Ragnarok and cracked Cocoon's shell. Vanille feels guilty for all the people who died because she became Ragnarok. Lightning says it's over, and those souls can rest. Later on the way to Erba, Fang says it's her fault Gran Pulse ended up like this. She tells Vanille she remembers everything. Fang became Ragnarok and scarred Cocoon. Vanille is troubled by what Fang is saying, so much so that an Eidolon appears. Fang reveals that she didn't remember and was just baiting the truth out of Vanille. They fight the Eidolon Hecatonchire, which is pretty cool, I gotta say. Not my top 5 summons, but Hecatonchire is pretty cool.
Yeah, this part's a little weird because why does the Eidolon appear to fight before they have the big conflict?
I don't know.
Right? Like, it's really weird that happens. You'd think that if you reveal your big secret to someone and then they get mad at you, that would be when you would have the big Eidolon appear. It's weird.
Yeah, this is sort of like Hope's Eidolon appearance, where it just sort of doesn't make sense. Also, I feel like Vanille has had... I mean, maybe Vanille just wasn't showing the strong emotions when Fang was talking about her past, but I feel like Vanille's had stronger emotional bouts earlier in the game.
Yeah, I think appearing here makes perfect sense. It's just, I think it should have happened in the middle of their argument instead of prior to them having it.
Anyway, after the fight, Fang reveals she knew something was up with Vanille since they woke up. After hearing that story from Reigns, Fang realized that Vanille already knew all of that. Vanille says it wasn't fair. Fang had to do all the horrible stuff while she didn't have to do anything. Fang makes like she's going to punch Vanille, which isn't cool. Fang tells Vanille she's not alone anymore, and they have a new family now. Further along the way to Erba, Snow stares into Sarah's crystal tear while he holds it up to Cocoon. When Vanille asks what he's doing, he says he was talking to Sarah. Vanille stares into the crystal tear as well. She remembers Day 9 in Bodum. She says, this place was beautiful, but it was her focus to destroy it. She decided to do nothing and just become a thief. But because she did nothing, others got dragged into this nightmare, and she's to blame. Vanille and Sarah met that day. They have a weird romantic moment on the beach. Vanille tells Sarah she's looking for someone and needs to apologize to them, but she can't find the words. Sarah tells Vanille if it's too much to deal with, face it later, which is what Vanille said to Hope earlier at the very beginning of the game.
Really sweet. Cheesy, but very sweet.
Yes, it's a good trick.
Yeah, it's like, oh, this random thing that we had previously dunked on being a kind of strange way that Vanille deals with conflict, she learned from the central character in the entire game.
Sarah says looking at things from a distance can help. Vanille asks, does that work? Sarah says she'll let her know.
I love that.
Sarah then tells Vanille she's been trying to keep something at a distance too. A dream she had where she destroyed the world. It scared her so badly she tried to run away. But her boyfriend came chasing after her, and that's when she understood that running away and leaving behind the people you care about isn't love. Shutting them out only hurts them more. Vanille totally knows Sarah's a lassie. She tells her she's sorry. Sarah tells Vanille she'll know the words to say when she finds her friend. In the present, Snow is quite surprised to learn that Sarah and Vanille met. Vanille tells him that she thinks Sarah had the same dream about Ragnarok they did. That means that Daisley was lying about her focus being to assemble the party. Sarah beat her focus, and that's why she turned into a crystal.
Yep.
After even more adventuring towards Erba, it's a very long way. Last time we were saying, like, why didn't they just go to Erba in the first place? Turns out it's fucking far away.
Yeah, so I guess they crash landed. They thought, let's just look around this random place we crashed, see if we can find anything. Maybe someone was like, what if we went to Erba? And they're like, man, let's just look around here first. And eventually they're like, okay, fine, we'll go to fucking Erba. Yeah, it's really funny, actually. It's like, you have to go through... It reminds me of, FF12 does this, too. FF12 does this towards the end of the game, where most of FF12 is like, dungeon, plot scene, dungeon, plot scene, dungeon, plot scene. And then at a certain point, FF12 is like, oh, now it's time to go to north to the Empire. I hope you like doing 7 dungeons in a row before the plot advances. What the hell? Anyway, this game totally does that too, yeah, where it's like, all right, we gotta go through the caves, and then the water area, and then the forest, and then, like, the other area, and then, like, the other thing, and then a tower. But the tower is its own whole fucking deal. And are we done yet? No, we're not done yet. Bitch.
Then you get to your destination, and it itself is a dungeon.
Yep. It's a lot, man.
I love it.
I do think, unlike FF12, for example, or different game in a different genre with this problem, Halo 3. They have enough, like, character scenes while you're going through to make it really good, I thought. Mostly unimportant character scenes, but, like, still, you learn a bit more about the characters as they're on this journey.
Yeah, so...
And unlike a lot of JRPG dungeons, our characters, like, react to the fact that they're in a dungeon. And it's like, like, they walk in and they're like, holy shit, this is a big ass place. And then some ancient machinery moves and they're like, holy shit, some ancient machinery is moving. And not just like, oh, we're in dungeon mode now. Time for us to just say nothing and do this crazy weird shit. And they just, they do, like, react a little, which is good.
Yeah, so eventually they stop for the evening. As the sun is setting, it's a beautiful scene. It's an FMV, or not FMV. It's a pre-rendered scene. Snow holds the crystal tear up to Cocoon. Lightning asks how Sarah is. Snow says she wants to talk to Lightning and hands her the tear. Lightning looks into it, then fucking slashes her sword at Snow. She says Sarah wants to know what his plan for when they get back is. They are getting married, right? Don't let Sarah down, Lightning says. She tosses the tear back to Snow. He says this tear will be Sarah's last. Lightning says that's all she needed to know.
It was real cute.
Zales. Holiday sale now. Someone, I mentioned this before, someone said on Twitter that FF13's cutscenes are all directed like perfume commercials. I know I just went with jewelry, but I couldn't think of the name of a perfume brand. But, like, this is the most that the game has ever been. Like, like, when we last left these characters, they were just, like, on, like, a mountain, like a foresty path. But then in this FMV, they're in a different location. We don't know how they got here. In this, like, this, like, endless, like, fucking Sonic 2006 ass, like, field of these little, like, flower thingies. And it's just like, how did they get here? Did they go here just to have this conversation? And the whole scene is just them doing, like, dramatic, like, poses and doing things that, like, look cool and looking at the camera. And yeah, it's just, like, pure, like, aesthetic image making. It's so fucking bizarre. It's from a dialogue standpoint, it's actually a lovely little scene. It's amazing how much the relationship has changed over the course of the game.
Snow asks, "We will see Sarah, right?" Lightning tells him not to go there. No room for doubt. We'll see her again. You convinced me of that. So stay strong.
That's so good.
Snow says, don't worry. They'll finish this, then go see her together. The next day, they come to an absolutely massive tower they need to pass through to get to Erba. The Falsi Dahaka lives there and creates trouble for them as they ascend the tower.
Okay.
Just so you know, the last sentence, a Falsi lives there and creates trouble for them as they ascend the tower, is like 5 hours of gameplay.
Yes.
This tower has like 7 floors, and to get through the floors, in case you weren't doing the crystal side quests earlier, the Seath side quests, here you have to. And each floor is like, yeah, man, go kill this monster. Four different dudes being like, yeah, go kill this monster. It's all really good and fun, but good lord, is it a lot. Also, it is one of those dungeons where it's one of my favorite dungeon gimmicks ever, which is a dungeon where a tower where the sections rotate. You might remember this thing from such things as Metroid Prime, when you get to like the snowy space pirate base, right? You got a big whole rotate bit. And you even, just like Metroid Prime, rotate in order to make like this elevator segment line up with like this like magnetic sort of like track that you can go on. So it's this really cool, complex little puzzle block dungeon. But it's not really a puzzle at all. It's go and do the one thing you can do, and you just see it all happen, which is a damn shame. It is, yeah. It's you're not figuring out how this giant complex contraption works. You're running to the next waypoint.
Yeah, it does let you do a lot of cool, not necessarily like puzzle solving dungeoneering, but figuring out how the twisted hallway that is the map fits together to get items and stuff that I really liked. I felt this one was the most like JRPG dungeon of the whole game.
Yeah, there are a few times where you're like, hey, an item over there. Wait, I can't get there from here. My map doesn't show a clear path. Oh, if I go back down the previous floor and then go around and then go back up, then I'll get it. That's fun. So you have a little bit of that if you're trying to get all the treasure chests, for sure. Also, after this dungeon's over, there's an optional one that requires a bit of, still not really thinking, but you got to do a little bit more shenanigans.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I really enjoyed my time in this dungeon, but I would still be like, another floor, huh? Man.
Like, I feel like having a sequence where you go linearly, horizontally through, like, 5 different biomes, if I was doing this part of the game where I wanted to depict characters going through a very long journey, I would either make them go through 5 different biomes, or make them go through a fucking 10-floor tower. I would not do both.
Well, they did one the first day, and they're doing this one today.
Yeah. While going through this giant ass dungeon, you do the first set of side quests on floor 2, and then you take the elevator, and it takes you all the way up to 4th floor. And I'm like, oh, floor 4, and I'm like, oh, okay, this is going to be a big ass dungeon, but we're going to skip a few. No, from floor 4, you then go down to floor 3 to complete all of the things on floor 3, so that then you can make it up to floor 5 and 6.
Mm-hmm.
You got to do you do 6 of the 7 floors. The 7th is the optional one that Maddie mentioned.
Mm-hmm. But once they reach the top of the tower, which isn't actually the top of the tower because most of the tower has fallen over, but once they reach what is now the top of the tower, they fight Dahaka. I got it my second try. How did y'all do?
I remember it being fucking hard and taking me a bunch of tries.
I believe it took me 2 tries, that may have been 3, but I never really found it hard. When I died, it was like oh, heck, I died? Really? Let's try again, kind of thing, right? Wait, no, sorry, I know I always do this. It was so long ago. I remember it, because I was like the first of all of us to beat it, right?
Yeah.
I beat it like 10 days ago. No, I had to rejigger my shit so that I could survive some really strong attacks. What ended up making me able to beat it was just that I used what's the soul that gives you the defense and stuff?
Fortisol. Here's the thing. I never use those things because they're for cucks. Also, it's like
bitch, if I wanted Shell and Protect on my party, I would cast it by switching to the appropriate paradigm at the beginning of the battle, because I'm not a pussy. Yeah, it's really hard because the boss hits you real hard right at the beginning, and it's hard to get all your shields up. So actually, I did change up my strategies a little bit, and I think I may have modified my equipment a little bit, but I think the Fortisol was really what made the difference.
Yeah.
So last week we were talking about how we didn't really understand how Sentinels work. This week is around this point was when I realized Sentinels are really important, because not only do they draw attacks, just having a Sentinel in your party raises the physical and magical defense of your whole party.
Yeah, that's the bonus.
Yeah, and it raises it by a not insignificant amount. So I had to use Sentinels in this, in the final fight, in the optional boss I did. That was really hard. I was using Sentinels a lot.
I definitely realized in this battle also how important Sentinels were. However, I have been running my party thus far without a Sentinel, and it would be a lot of investment for me to upgrade the equipment of a character that can be a Sentinel, so I just dealt with it. I was thinking, damn, I bet this would be easier if I had a Sentinel.
About halfway through the second of the 4 dungeons that is Grand Pulse, there's a lot of robots. Those robots drop, I forget what it is, but it sells for a shitload. So you can make a switch. I did that to get Hope out of my party and replace it with Vanille, because she is better. And so so it's not impossible to do it at this point, especially because the boss we're about to talk to gives you a literal 100,000 Crystarium points. So if there was anybody that wasn't like that, you had been like, for instance, if you're only giving Fang Commando, you have plenty of points to give her some Sentinel to catch her up.
Also, you can even start doing extra classes. I did a lot of grinding this week, and I actually started doing my little bit of secondary classes. Now, we talked last week about how they're so goddamn expensive. At this point, we're getting so much XP for a battle that they're still goddamn expensive in general, but the first couple layers are actually cheaper than your top layer of your main classes. And sometimes the low levels of secondary classes have really good shit in there. For example, really low, like the first couple things on Lightning's Synergist are Faith and Brave. Faith and Brave are fucking fantastic. So what I did was I made her go Synergist just enough to get Faith and Brave. This wasn't very much. And now, at the beginning of battle, I can have both her and Hope on Synergist duty. Synergist is putting up Protect and Shell. Lightning is putting up Brave and Faith. We get it up way faster.
Nice. That's dope.
So like little things like that. Like, I would encourage y'all, if you're thinking, God, they're way too expensive. Yeah, but like the first 3 layers of each person's thing sometimes get like a lot of the time. Actually, it's like, oh, this person's secondary class gets this ability way earlier than all the characters who have it as their primary class get it. In addition, there's some spells that people only get on secondary classes. I forget what there's some major spell, I forget what it is, where the Ga version that hits everyone, only secondary people get that. So it's like, yeah, some character's secondary saboteur gets a spell that is better than all the actual saboteurs. It's quite complex the way that it works.
That's
so
interesting.
Take a look. Once you get up to the first, I think they probably maybe intentionally put the good shit at the low levels to encourage that. Because yeah, if you look higher up, if I look at the rest of Lightning Synergist track, not only does it cost so much, but the stuff isn't that great. And I'm like, well, I don't know why I would do this unless I was doing some really weird strat.
Right now, I am running with Lightning, Fang, and Vanille, except I swap out Vanille for Hope if I need a Synergist.
Yeah, that's basically where I'm at. I have Hope as my backup, but Vanille just hit real hard with her magics, so I let her do that.
I usually keep Vanille because I find she's a better healer.
Yeah, I think the reason I changed is Hope doesn't get raise, which is stupid. And I need my healer to have raise. It's very important.
He does get it, but it's very high up. It's like on his final track. And like, for so much of this game, it was me and Hope and Vanille, and the enemies would like, if they kill Hope, it's no big deal. But if they kill Vanille, it's like, fuck.
Yeah. But then so I was looking at switching for that, and then I saw without any like accessories attached, she had the same basic magic attack that Hope did, and I'm like, yeah, okay, she can join the party. It'll be fine.
I don't normally do this kind of thing, but I did in fact look at that one really good the HTML walkthrough on it, Game FAQs, which is incredible, by the way. I did actually look at its like strategy guide, like character build strat, what character you should use, what weapons you should use. I said, you know what? I'll see what they have to say. I've played almost the whole game using my own brain. I'll see what they have to say. And they pointed something out that I hadn't noticed, which is, in retrospect, obvious. Lightning has definitely turned into a Ravager, not a Commando at this point in the game.
Absolutely. Fang is your Commando.
Yeah, like she switches. Like Lightning at the beginning of the game was a little bit... She's always been a balanced character. She's a little bit better as a Commando than a Ravager, but it's still a better Commando than most people. Not as good as, obviously, Fang and also Snow. But then she's also a healer, so nice, good balanced character. But yeah, as the game goes on, I hadn't realized, but now at this point, 35 hours into the game, she's a way better Ravager than she is Commando. So whereas she used to just pile on the damage, now she's not as good at that. So instead of it being like other characters of support, but the character that the player controls is the one doing the damage, now either you don't use Lightning as your player character, or you have to bring someone else in to be the heavy hitter, which is it. It's, again, I had not realized that until the internet told me. So now I'm like, oh, so I should be using a different weapon than what I'm currently using for her.
That's hilarious, because I thought that I had built Lightning that way, and that's why she was like that on mine. I figured she was still a physical attacker for you guys. But yeah, because I mean, she has all these different weapons.
You can still give her a weapon that gives her strong attack, right? But
absolutely.
It's her Crystarium starts giving her way more magics and a lot fewer attacks.
Yeah, because way back in the sewer dungeon, the one that was huge and had floating platforms for no goddamn reason, in Palampolum, I found a Final Fantasy does this often, where like you'll have the white mage weapon that's a mace, and it'll give you 0 magic attack and give you strength for some reason. And so I found that for Lightning, and because of my party comp at the time, like I needed more Ravager, and so I was like, okay, well, fine, I'll do the one that gives her, that makes her a caster instead of an attacker. And then I started leveling it up, and then the end of that chapter was where I leveled all of the weapons to sky high, and so just kind of cemented that she was going to be a magic attacker. But it's so it's interesting for me to see that, oh no, that basically happens to everybody because of her Crystarium, because she has like a sorcerer's mark and a shaman's mark and a whatever one better than black belt is for her stuff. So she's got like an extra 300 fucking magic attack from her accessories, but she's still better than that for everybody else, which is cool.
And I gotta say, for those of y'all in the upgrading shit game, did y'all get and then upgrade your like collector's badge or whatever?
It never occurred to me to upgrade the collector's catalog, I think it's called.
Oh my god! So it's possible to get 2. So collector catalog turns out, basically the whole crafting and weapon modification thing becomes way more of a thing in this part of the game. Not so much because you need to do it more, but because it's way easier to actually get items, because item drop rates are really low in this game. So the collector's catalog raises the drop rate of items. The upgraded collector's catalog, which isn't just put points into it, but actually transform it into a new item, raises the drop rate of just rare items, but not regular items. So you actually want both. And you do end up getting both. I believe one of the side quests drops collector's catalog, so I had it way earlier than maybe y'all did if y'all weren't doing as many side quests. But yeah, that really raises the amount of items you're getting dropped, which means you have a lot more you can actually do with it. Also, boy, did either of y'all do chocobo stuff?
No, I never even found it.
No, I found the chocobos, but I hadn't done. There were still like 2 quests I needed to do, but I really wanted to get on with the story.
Right, well, I'll go ahead and tell you right now. I'll go and tell you right now, it's really annoying. You do this whole quest. It's a very special quest. The quest is like, hey, here's a magical red energy barrier. We can't get past it. And the quest is like, oh, if we do this quest, it'll get rid of the magical barrier. And of course, when that happens, what is the game very obviously implying is behind that magical barrier? Something cool, something awesome, right? So you're like, oh, I can't wait to get behind that barrier. You finally get there, and it's a chocobo forest, and you're like, oh my god, it's chocobos! I finally get to ride chocobos. And you see on your map, there's even little symbols where there's chocobos, and you're like, oh my god! But then you can't ride the chocobos. And what happens is, and there's not even like a quest chain. It's not like, welcome to the chocobo farm. Do you want to ride the chocobos? Let's do some quests. No, you just. Cool, I guess I can be here now and look at the chocobos. Fine.
Yeah, it doesn't explain to you you've got to do more quests. I was like running up against the chocobo, like, where is the mount command?
So then you run out and you're like, okay, I guess that was fine. Sure. Really weird that they very obviously gated that with the magical red barrier just so that I could go in and say hi to the chocobos. And then you just keep doing quests, and a random quest that you do later that has no indications related to anything is like, oh, a monster is picking on the chocobos. Go save the chocobos. So then you go back to that area, kill the monster, and then you can ride chocobos. It's so weird and random that it's just unrelated. Very dumb, very annoying. I was really excited about riding the chocobos. Turns out though, the chocobos are awesome. They're fucking fast. If you hit an enemy, you just take 1 chocobo hit point of damage and just keep going. You don't have to have any battles. Chocobo hit points recharge, by the way. And also, you always get these prompts where it's like, oh, there's an item nearby hidden. And it's like the item, it's basically like playing hot and cold. Like it beeps faster when you get closer to the item. And then you dig up the hidden item, and the items are always fucking fantastic. We're talking like a item that is just good for selling, and it sells for like 60,000 gil. Or like a catalyst for transforming shit. Or like it's all insanely good shit like that. It's cool.
Nice.
I want chocobos. Yeah. I know that you get to return to Pulse later if you want. I might go there and do the chocobo quest.
Would recommend, not just because chocobos are fun, but also because, again, you do reap some pretty dope benefits, like primarily shit tons of gil from this. I forget what else you find. I think you also find other good stuff, but like, yeah, the items that sell for 60k gil are quite good.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway,
Dahaka.
We took for a while. We fought Dahaka.
That's
we beat
right.
it. It disappears once we defeat it. The party looks out in the direction of Erba and sees it's in ruins, and there were supposed to be flowers, but there's not flowers. And Fang is like, we're chasing shadows. The idea of losing our brands is hopeless. But Hope is like, it's not hopeless. I'm Hope, and I'm here. And he encourages everyone to keep going. So they keep going. They reach the ruins of Erba. Hope asks which house Vanille lived in. She and Fang say everyone in the village lived together. All the houses are theirs. And maybe this is just me living in a property-based society, but I kind of feel like you would sort of settle on one as the one you usually go to sleep. But whatever.
It's like, it's cool that she's being like, yeah, we all live in a commune and there's no, like, property, but like, yeah, it's, you think just out of like human habit, it'd be like, yeah, well, like, this is, I like this one. Here's where I keep my stuff.
Yeah.
Someone's confusing the concept of private property and personal property. And here I thought this game was about the Communist Party. They would never make that mistake.
They continue through the village and end up walking down a very long bridge with lots of enemies on it, and the enemies are hard to dodge because the bridge is narrow.
Mm-hmm.
They see Sarah in the distance, ? As she approaches, she says some weird prayer about Ragnarok. She says she was waiting for them to open their eyes. She hugs Snow. Thaz thinks this is suspicious. She says she knew what was happening the whole time she was asleep. She kept trying to think of a way to save Cocoon together. For reasons that weren't clear to me, Snow suddenly pushes her away. The Pope's owl flies overhead. Sarah says there are no gods with miracles to save us. That's why we have to call one. Destroy Orphan. We'll save the world. Lightning reaches for her sword. Sarah says, "You can't do that. You love me too much. Don't you, Claire?" Sarah turns into Daisley. Snow tries to punch him, but it's not working. And this is every time he tries to punch the Pope. Daisley says the world they wish to protect now faces the end of days with no hope of salvation. He says the people of Cocoon have been coddled by the Fal'Cie and grew to fear change and anything alien. They're ready to explode at the slightest spark. He says he resigned, appointing Reigns as the new Primarch. Reigns is just a puppet now. Daisley suggests he'll get cavalry to take out Orphan. Or maybe he'll feign the howling of Pulsian wolves and let the people of Cocoon slaughter each other. Either way, the end is at hand. He turns into Bartandalus, and we fight him again. How did this fight go for y'all?
So I beat it on my first try, but it took me 26 minutes. The estimate was 11 minutes. And I figured I had just done it wrong. Because when I brute forced the airship battle, it was actually really easy, and I just fought it for 30 minutes and survived. I thought I was doing that again because I was so far off estimate. So I looked up the guide on what the one weird trick is, and the one weird trick is spend 26 minutes fighting the boss and hope you don't get doomed and die, because it's just real big and real hard. And I wasn't ever in any danger, so I probably could have fought a lot more aggressively, but I don't think I could have fought 15 minutes more aggressively. But it was big and hard. I kept giggling to myself because after you do X amount of damage, he sprouts another head. And it just reminded me of Disney's Hercules. Enough with the head slicing thing. Just like he keeps getting more lasers to shoot at you. Just stop doing that, Lightning. Don't keep making heads. It makes it hard for you.
Mm-hmm. So I was scared. So I was fighting very conservatively, and I was doing very well. I was like, yeah, I'll beat this guy. It'll just take a while, but I don't care. But then he cast Doom on me because I was taking too long, and I died. So I tried again, and I played really aggressively because I didn't want to get doomed again. And it was really scary, and I almost died a few times, but I did beat him in 16 minutes.
Ooh, almost an estimate. You probably got a star.
Well, 5 minutes over estimate, but I mean, that's better than some GDQ runners.
Yeah. Did you get any stars for being that close?
I don't remember.
Because I definitely got 0 stars for being more than double estimate.
This is definitely a hard fight. But as I mentioned, was pretty decently leveled at this point. I don't say over leveled. The game actually scaled up quite a bit. But I think I got 2 stars for it. So cool. Hooray. It took me 2 or 3 tries. I always play very aggressively, so that's not really a question. For me, I either die or I beat it relatively quickly, because I'm an idiot. Yeah, no, it's a good time. I mean, it's like pretty similar to the first one, which is weird. I know he's got a lot of different moves, but like vibe-wise, this is weird. It's weird that you fight him again.
Mm-hmm.
Like he already fought you, never fighting you again. I don't know, man.
We don't really have a reason to fight you again. We know we can't kill you this way.
Yeah. Also, like, to be clear here, like, we had all of these big adventures up in Cocoon. we come down here. The idea is that we're going to come down here to learn something important that'll save the day. But we don't find anything. All that happens is eventually we run into the villain again. And then he tells us some stuff, and we fight him, and then go back up.
Yeah.
The whole trip was pointless. Like, literally, you did not accomplish anything in this entire trip down to Pulse. Very weird to build it up.
Proper nouns in a minute.
Huh?
We get some new proper nouns in a minute.
We do get some new proper nouns in a minute. But it's just very, very strange. Most of what we learned, really all we learned was that some time had passed up there, and now things are different. So, very, very odd.
Yeah. This is trying to be the world of ruin for this game, but like the last thing we did in the world of light was fight this guy, and the last thing we do in this one is fight this guy.
Exactly. It's like
all of the new stuff we found out besides Orphan and all of that stuff, which we learned from the guy that we fight, so he could have told us last time, are memories of Fang and Vanille, who are in our party, and they could have told us that at any point.
Yeah, that's a big point. Yeah, like the fact that you fight the boss, that guy again, it serves to like really shine a spotlight on everything you just said. It's like, no, you've learned nothing new at all. You're exactly where you were 10 hours ago. You're even fighting the same guy you just fought 10 hours ago.
Yeah. But probably is cut content, but it's
Probably.
Okay. It was fun.
I really enjoyed this whole sequence. It's just so odd.
Yeah.
Maybe, I feel like maybe you were supposed to go to Pulse earlier in the game, and some of the character beats that happened in Cocoon should have happened once you got to Pulse. Like, it just seems like the whole game got, like, shuffled around.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that probably happened.
Or maybe, like, all the stuff in Cocoon was supposed to... Maybe the game was supposed to be, like, 10 hours longer, and it was supposed to be like, yeah, all of a sudden Cocoon happens, and then they go to Pulse and a lot more stuff happens. But then, yeah, stuff either got cut or reshuffled to a different part of the game, and it's just like... But we still want to have it open up. We still got to have the part where we go around and do side quests, because part of the design document is that characters get to go around and do side quests and enjoy this fantastic battle system that we designed. This is weird. What do we do here?
Yeah, and I was under the impression, like, yes, it was the propagandists were the ones saying this, but I was under the impression that Pulse was still inhabited, and there are literally no NPCs there at all.
Mm-hmm.
Which seems like the sign of cut and or shuffled content. Like,
yeah, I think that they definitely intended for there to be, like, tribes or villages or something living in this post-apocalyptic hellscape, and some kind of development difficulties resulted in them just being like, okay, fuck it, it's crystals.
Yeah.
Which, to be fair, that is hard. Making games is hard, okay?
Yeah.
And remember, this game was made during that period where all the game companies were trying to transition to making HD games.
Mm-hmm.
And this was the Crystal engine was a bespoke engine they made for the game. So every game studio, especially Japanese studios, not because they're Japanese, but because they're mid-budget studios. Because Western studios like Ubisoft, EA, Activision, they didn't have trouble making the switch to HD games, but most of the famous Japanese game companies have much lower budgets than Activision, EA, and Ubisoft. So they had a lot more of a trouble making that switcheroo. And of course, the fact that the PS3 was a outrageously complicated system with 7 fucking cores didn't help, right?
Yeah.
So every especially Japanese games, so not exclusively Japanese games, like across the whole industry, you had games with very weird design decisions due exclusively to, holy shit, it's a lot harder to make games now because we have not figured out how to do this stuff.
And maybe that's one reason that Final Fantasy XIII kind of didn't stick the landing for a lot of people, because when it came out, it was 2009, right? When it came out?
Yeah.
By that point, I feel like a lot of companies had sort of figured it out, but Final Fantasy XIII started on the PS2 and then was switched to PS3 and was like the first big HD PS3 game from Square Enix, so it was still one that was troubled.
Yeah,
Whereas
that makes sense.
everyone
Because
else
it got delayed so
troubled game
much.
by that point.
Yeah, totally. And I mean, the fact that it was delayed so much is also signs to its development troubles. Yeah, absolutely. And again, like, if you look at games that came out in the years 2006, 2007, 2008, 2009 on those next-gen consoles, from both sides of the Pacific, you see so many examples of this exact kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
All the best practices of just the very assembly line, like, here's how a game development pipeline works, they just stopped working for a good 4 years or so.
Yeah, my favorite factoid to highlight how weird it was to transition from the PS2 to the PS3 is Persona 3 and Persona 4 both came out after the PS3 was there.
Yep.
Persona 3, I think, was actually like 2 months before, but like people had already had pre-orders for the PS3 when Persona 3 came out. And then there was a whole nother Persona game on the PS2 before coming to the PS3 on its last days with Persona 5.
Persona 3 came out in Japan on July 13th, 2006.
And the PS3 was in November.
November 2006?
Yeah. I just looked it up to make sure I remember.
Okay.
I was remembering the
I was thinking,
right.
wait, it was PS3 2007 and 360 was 2006, but no, 360 was 2005.
Yeah, 360 jumped down a little bit, very early.
2005, good lord.
Fucking weird. Yeah,
I
Halo
mean,
3,
it's like
Halo 3 is another example of games that fell in this weird, and that's an enormous budget game, but it still fell in that weird, how do you HD video games vibe.
Man, it's like when you remember that the PlayStation came out in 1994.
Yeah.
Good lord.
Insane. Yeah. Like, the fact that N64 came out in 96, that's normal. That makes sense. That's reasonable. But I'm like, 94 is the year that Final Fantasy VI came out. Like, Chrono Trigger was 1995. Like, you can't tell me the fucking PlayStation came out in 94. That's insane. I don't believe you.
The Sega Saturn also came out in 94.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, no. Because in my brain, it's like, okay, that first generation, not actually first generation, but you know what I mean. NES generation, 85 to 90. SNES, 90 to 95. PlayStation, next generation, 95 to 2000. No. SNES came out in 91 and PS1 came out in 94. Well, the real answer is that back in the day, the generations were much more staggered. They didn't have the idea of, like, let's all get together and make our new consoles at the same fucking time.
I mean, Sega Genesis came out in 1988.
Yeah, it was actually, because what it was is, it wasn't a cycle, it was hopscotching. Each company tried to make a console better than the other one, the one that already existed. So you had the NES, and then Sega was like, we're going to own the NES with the Genesis. And then Nintendo was like, we're going to own the Genesis with the SNES. So grouping them together as, like, parallel generations is actually a little funny to do, because that's not really how it is, even though it feels that way.
Yeah, and the different generations, like even NES and SNES, they overlapped each other a lot longer than they do nowadays. Like nowadays, I remember when Gun came out for the Xbox and the 360. I was like, this is so stupid. But now I have an emulation device that has Zoop and Zool for literally everything, because they all have the same release date. It's like, oh yeah, Zoop came out for the Game Gear, the Genesis, the NES, the SNES, and the Game Boy, all on the same day in like 1991, because all of those were still relevant in 1991.
What game are you talking about?
It's some puzzle game from back in the day. Okay. It's on everything. So it's like, when I saw it, I was like, oh, like, it's an NES game that then got ported to all of these things. No, it was a multi-platform game, and all of the current platforms in 1991 were like spanning 3 generations.
The Sega Master System apparently was produced in Europe until 1996.
Wow.
After the Saturn came out.
whack.
Yeah.
That's absolutely wild.
Yeah. What the console generation that blows my entire mind is the original Game Boy is
Oh my God, yes.
1989 to 2001.
Yeah.
Absolutely insane that it launched. Because, like, what games is it most famous for? I don't know. Pokemon Red Blue, which came out in 98, right? Or, like, going back a little bit, like, actually, I can't even think of anything come out in, like, the 94, 95 zone. Mario Land, Metroid.
Six Golden Coins. Wasn't that?
But those are like, maybe. But yeah, but like Mario Land 1 and Metroid 2, those were like 91 or so. But it's like, no, that shit launched in 89, dude. Like,
yeah, it's freaking nuts.
Link's Awakening was early, and of course, everyone's favorite, For the Frog the Bell Tolls.
Yes.
For the Frog the Bell Tolls, Link's Awakening style remake Switch win, Nintendo.
I want that so bad. Like, they could reuse a ton of the assets from the Link's Awakening remake. It would be great. I would love it. Release it as sort of a budget game. It would be great.
Yeah.
Anyway.
What was the Prince was his cameo there in the remake? I can't even remember now.
I believe it was.
That's a very good question. I don't remember.
Yeah, I don't remember at all.
I'm like 90% sure it was.
Yeah, I burned through that remake in about like 3 days, so I don't remember anything about it. I just remember vibing.
That game might be one of the biggest counterexamples to like the outrageously dumb idea of like hours of gameplay being like value. Like I went into Link's Awakening remake knowing that they added almost nothing to it, and it's like, here's this classic game. We didn't add anything to it. It'll take you a couple of hours to beat. It's got the most incredible graphics you've ever seen in your absolute goddamn life. Also, it does have a smooth scrolling screen, which is a huge change, and I'm not sure if I'm going to like it or not because I haven't played the game yet. And yes, we are selling it for $60. And a lot of fans were like, $60 is too much. And I'm like, again, I knew going in what I was getting. And what happened? I did nothing but play that game for 2 straight days. I beat it. I'm never going to play it again. It was incredible. It was my game of the year, and I'm really glad I paid $60 for it.
Didn't the 3 of us all play a single copy?
I think so.
I gave my copy to you, Bernard, in exchange for Yoshi's Woolly World, Crafted World. If that eventually made its way to Sam, then yes.
Yes. I later gave Sam that copy of Link's Awakening.
Yeah. That game was like, I knew exactly what I was going to get. I got it, and it was fantastic.
Speaking of Yoshi's Crafted World, shout out to that game. Play that game.
Great game. Shout out.
I've never seen anyone talk about it ever. That's great.
I've been meaning to play it. Let me add that to my GameFly queue so I can actually play it.
It's so good.
Yeah, it being a first-party Nintendo game, it's still probably $60, and I don't have $60 to give to Yoshi right now. So I'll let GameFly do it.
Yeah, and it's not like very long or particularly deep or anything. So yeah. Anyway,
what's the final cutscene that we got distracted?
Really, one more cutscene.
After the fight with Bartandalus, he turns back into Daisley. He says to save a people beyond salvation, there is only Ragnarok. The owl turns into an airship again. He says Cocoon suffers, release her from the pain. He disappears. There's now a Seath Stone nearby. The party talks about it like it's some sort of computer or something that would have a record of events in it, and I get the feeling that this should have been a not Seath Stone, and those weird development troubles we've hypothesized about caused it to be a Seath Stone for some reason.
Yeah, it's like, I guess they can just tell this is a special Seath Stone that is also a computer, unlike all the other ones, which are guys, or occasionally really mad guys.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. Anyway, Vanille touches it, and it displays text, like Seath Stones do.
Wait, hold on. I figured it out. You're right. They are all guys, but this is also a computer. So what does that mean? That means that this Seath Stone used to be a Mentat. That's right. Shoutouts to Dune 2021.
This takes place in the Dune universe.
Our boy Thufir Hawat and our other boy who's the badminton tat?
DeVry University?
Peter. Filled with an I.
Yes, Piter.
Piter. That's the badminton tat, who was played by that guy who was a bit character in Twin Peaks: The Return. Loved it.
David Dastmalchian?
Yeah, that guy.
Yeah, love David Dastmalchian.
Sam, did you see Dunk 2021?
No, I just remembered that the clock is ticking and I need to watch it before it's off HBO Max.
You gotta go see it. Oh, no, okay. I don't know how you're feeling right now about movie theaters because, you live in Austin instead of California, but boy, it's IMAX.
I don't live in Austin anymore.
Oh, you're right. I'm silly. Well, how are things up there? Are people insane about COVID or are they cool about it?
It's a toss up. Like,
yeah.
I don't see a lot of people like yelling about masks and stuff.
Gotcha.
But the moment that the mask mandate was optional, a lot of people had taken it off, and a lot of like fairly normal people that like I talk to, and they're like, yeah, I gotta go get vaccinated, everything is great. They still are like, yeah, because I'm vaccinated, I'm going to go to like this music festival and things that I'm still like, oh god, no,
the Travis Scott concert.
Yeah.
Well, if you feel safe, because people in the movie theaters out there, like if the movie theaters are relatively sparsely attended and everyone's wearing masks and vaccinated and not being insane, which I don't know if that's true for you or not, you should totally see it in IMAX.
Also, I assume it's probably hard to get out to see a movie when you have 2 young children and it's not a children's movie.
Yeah, and we don't have Flicks Brewhouse or Alamo Draft House for
my god, what a terrible state.
Yeah. there may be an Alamo somewhere, but it's not close to me, and I don't know if any of the ones here do Mommy Mondays or anything like that. But then to do that, I would have to take off work and also be okay with Scarlett watching Dune 2021, which I don't know if it's okay for Scarlett to watch Dune 2021. But I would have to figure that out with her there.
I'd say probably, yeah. She probably, I don't think there's anything upsetting in it. There's really no language, really no sex. There's really not even that much violence, at least in terms of like bloodiness. She would probably just be bored.
I don't think she's not really the target audience.
Yeah, she would, because of its ponderousness and loudness and like droning quality, she'd probably fall asleep.
Speaking of similar things, we did start watching Star Wars because we watched them all as a kid, and she loves Star Wars, but she loves the concept of Star Wars. She doesn't remember what it's about. We were reading one of her Star Wars like nursery rhyme books, and she was like, oh, like, what is this, blah 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 blah, and I'm like, do you not remember? And I'm like, what do you remember? She's like, I know there's a girl and it's really cool. And so we started rewatching it.
Girl in Star Wars.
Yeah. And so we started rewatching it, and I'm hoping that I like Star Wars again by the end of it. But she gets kind of bored in Star Wars, but thankfully Star Wars is incredibly episodic, even without each movie being called an episode. So if she's ever seems like her mind is wandering, within like 10 minutes probably there's a good stopping spot, and we can just keep watching it later. But yeah, that was fairly related. Did we finish talking about this cutscene?
No.
Okay.
So Vanille touches the Sea Stone and it shows text. It says, Cocoon, where the slaves of Lindsay dwell, is the enemy of all life fostered by Pulse's sacred hand. Sora Falsi determined Pulse's will, chose l'Cie and gave them a focus. Become Ragnarok and bring about the end of Cocoon. And so the beast arose, defeated Lindsay's hateful Falsi, and prepared to tear Cocoon apart. But her providence betrayed our l'Cie, draining Ragnarok of its strength. Their focus only half complete, the l'Cie were taken to the enemy's land by Bartandalus, curse his name. And the goddess said, l'Cie who rest upon Cocoon will reawaken, however long they may wait, and Ragnarok will rise again to tear the land from its seat in the sky. Her word is absolute. The gang despairs, wondering if there's anything they can do to save Cocoon at this point. Snow says as long as Falcia are around, the fight will never end. They gotta kill Daisley. And I'm like, we already tried to do that twice, and it didn't work. Saz is like, what about Orphan? Fang says we have to protect it, but Lightning says another war will just break out down the road. We can't make people stop fighting. Hope says it's not a question of can or can't. Even if only one person listens to us, we've gotta try. Vanille violently shakes Hope and says ripples can make waves.
That was my one mim-mom for the week, is that fucking choice that Vanille's hypothetical actress picked for that line.
I mean, I get sort of like gently shaking someone, but she shakes them.
She shakes the shit out of him and says a nonsense line.
She says that in Bodum she wished for the fireworks that nothing would happen to Cocoon, but wishes and prayers aren't enough. This time she's making a promise to keep Cocoon safe. Saz says it takes losing everything to make you... Saz says it... I'm going to get a good read of this. Saz says it takes losing everything to make you see how much you have to fight for.
No, that's not true. Bad politics, Saz. What's it called? The colorationism is fake, actually. Strength begets strength. Just look at the history of all countries, man.
Snow says, and we're the only ones that can do it. Snow and Hope share a moment. Vanilla and Fang share a moment. Saz tries to share a moment with Lightning, but she leaves him hanging. The gang boards the ship and heads to Cocoon. The end. We made it.
We
did it.
My girlfriend had a very insightful insight while we were playing. He said, and yes, I did say girlfriend, and he said, "Ginger's complicated." Okay, shut up.
Absolutely.
He said, during some stupid scene in this scene, it's one of the scenes where Saz was just being goofy or whatever. Kali was like, man, I really feel like the characters in this game they all went on an arc where, like, at the beginning they were all like one note cutouts with a stupid annoying gimmick, and then they all went through this beautiful arc of growth and learning and conflict and change, and now that they finished their journey, they're back to being cardboard cutouts with one little gimmick. And I'm like, yeah, that's pretty accurate.
Yeah,
I can see that. Yeah,
not every character, because some of the characters are still in their growth arcs, but it's like, yeah, no, we are kind of back to characters yelling their new personality trait at each other during every cutscene.
Yeah. What's the point of character growth if you can't then become a caricature of your new self?
I mean, you know what? I am that 100%. I definitely am the same person I was 5 years ago, except the things that I'm yelling in every single conversation have just changed.
Yeah. Speaking of things that you yell all the time and now I yell all the time, I brought up Speed Racer 2008
That's
three
right,
times in my tracer today, my transition to success training today.
I've actually you brought up Speed Racer in your transition conversations today. That makes a lot of sense, Sam.
Yeah.
I've actually gone out of Speed Racer. Not that it isn't still an absolutely goated movie in every single way, but it's sort of key lines that I really thought were very impactful and important. I don't agree with anymore. Over it.
All right.
All right, you heard it here first, folks. No more Speed Racer from Maddie Grace Webben.
Maddie Grace Webben doesn't like Speed Racer.
I don't not like it. I just think that the line where he says, "Racing's the only thing I know how to do, and I got to do something," is wrong. I think that if you only know how to do one thing and that thing isn't really very helpful, you should learn to do something else if you actually are committed.
But racing does help.
Yes, but that's in this story fictional narrative. The point is, world changing doesn't just mean doing whatever you were already doing, but better.
Yes, I take that line to, and how I brought it up today, because that's specifically the line I was talking about today. Is me doing IT better wouldn't save the world, but me doing IT for people who are saving the world helps save the world. So
that's a good point. There you go.
Yeah. So, anywho, fuck music. What are some memorable moments you have, Maddie?
I like I said, did a lot of side questing. I already shared about the chocobos. That was fun. Just a lot of interesting mechanical stuff that's very broad in this game. I haven't done every single side quest that has been unlocked up until this point. There's been a lot of really interesting battles. There's like there's one mark where like the enemy is completely immune to magic. No, sorry. It's if you look at its like stats when you use Libra, it's immune to every single element, but it's not immune to magic. And what that means is every time you cast a spell on it, it does 0 damage, but it raises its stagger.
Mm-hmm.
It's super weird. And this enemy also, I think, is literally like either immune to physical or really strong to physical. So like, but then once you stagger it, it like flips. And it's now like super susceptible to physical attack or something. So it's this very strange thing where you're doing magic spells that literally don't hurt it because you have to stagger it. That's the one that I really remember, and I believe there's 2 of them, which leads to some interesting interactions because they have some interesting like status spells and stuff. A lot of the marks have very weird little gimmicks and interesting little twists on the game's core mechanics, largely involving like switching to being different when they're staggered, though not always. Sometimes they just have an interesting combination of qualities that make it weird to fight them. And some of these marks were like, damn, like in an ideal version of this game, this is every battle. Right?
Yeah.
Like every battle has, not every battle, like the game's core mechanics, when the game is just doing like, here's a standard battle that uses the standard mechanics, it is good. The game's standard mechanics are real good, you know? And it's like when a shooter is like, sometimes a shooter is just like, here's a big open area with some enemies. It's a well-designed open area and well-designed enemies, but like you're just doing the normal thing, the normal part of the game. And then other times it's like, oh, you're on a giant thing and it's moving and all the crazy shit's happening, right? The game, I think, ideally should have had more of this enemy has some weird little gimmick to it, because right now it's like 5% of all the battles in the game have something like that going on. But really, really cool. Glad I did it. In addition, there's one cutscene that really, really I thought was fantastic. Bernard slept over it as Vanille and Hope do some weird flirting, which I agree. It's weird. But anyway, in this cutscene, what happens is Hope is talking about like, man, it's just so weird being down here in Pulse. Like I never would have thought that, right? Never thought my life would go in such a direction. Holy shit. And then he thinks about how if he'd never gone to the fireworks, he never would be here. Like total coincidence, right? That he wouldn't have been on this total life journey if he hadn't just been in a specific place at a certain specific time. But then Vanille says, actually, I'm pretty sure you would have wound up here. Don't you remember you promised me? And I'm like, the player is like, I don't remember that. And Hope is like, I don't remember that. And then Vanille says, I don't know, maybe in a previous life? And Hope's like, what? And then she's like, I'm just playing with you. You know, what is it? He's just like, I'm joking. It was a joke. Pulls the old Harrison Ford Blade Runner move. But yeah, she's like, I was just lying, which maybe she was, but like that's really weird. Maybe that's the twist that we'll come back to or something, or she was just lying. So that's really cool. Then she goes into this thing where she says she's always telling lies, and she feels so bad about how she's always telling lies. And then Hope says an incredible line. He says, sometimes you have to lie about stuff. And my first thought is, A, he's right, but also B, that is funny, right? Like, like number one rule when you're like a kid is like, don't ever lie. And then you become an adult and have like, I don't know, a person you're in love with or something. And it's like, it's okay to lie a little bit sometimes. But also maybe it's actually not, right? But then he says you have to lie to do things like to keep yourself going, for example, or to protect someone else so they don't get hurt. Again, most adults would agree that sometimes that's happening. But then he says sometimes even the things that everyone in the whole world thinks are true turn out to be lies. And it's like, okay, yeah, that's a little cliche, but it is true. But then he says, and I'm actually watching the cutscene right now because I don't know. I did write it down, but who knows where I wrote it down. But then he says, at the end of the day, it's not the lie that matters, but what you do after you tell it. And then he says, work hard enough and you can make it true, which in a game that, again, I do think is full of very, very interesting messaging about the act of decision-making, the act of politics, and the act of world-changing. I think that is a very powerful line. I think that a lot of the time organizing is about telling a lie so that it becomes true. Like, you're not lying to people. You shouldn't lie to people. That's bad. You shouldn't trick, you don't want to promise a pie in the sky, okay? But you are kind of oftentimes drawing someone into action with a positive vision, but that vision is only possible if everyone believes in it and works hard, right? And but in some ways it's still a little bit tentative because you are trying to create a world that does not exist, and because people are because people's minds and hearts are conditioned by the world in which they live, the only people who could really conceive a future world is the people who are in it, because they would be conditioned, their brains would be conditioned in such a way that it is possible for them to conceive the world that they live in. We can only conceive our world. So conceiving a world, it is actually impossible to truly conceive a fundamentally different world because only people in that world could understand it. So you're trying to make something exist that you cannot actually understand or fully conceptualize as real, which is why I would call it a lie, as opposed to just, it's not the same as a football coach saying, get out there and give it 100% and we'll win. Well, like, it's very obvious that it's possible to win. Like, that's not a lie. That's just like, yeah, it's an if-then statement, right? But when the then part of the if-then statement is in many ways incomprehensible because it lies across a divide, a conceptual and philosophical divide, it's different. It's not an if-then statement. It's a lie that becomes a because. It's really amazing. I thought this line was awesome. I don't know, knock me out of my seat a little bit. It's great. Yeah. The chocobos are really cute in this game. They have weird hair. And there's been a lot of real good music. And also at one point, Cactuar appears. And there's a little cutscene where the Cactuar runs around and basically just like trolls Saz. It's very funny. He does his little Saz thing where he's a goofy guy, and he's like, and the Cactuar messes with him. When you fight the Cactuars, they give pretty good XP, but they didn't use 1,000 needles, and I'm like, doesn't Cactuar use the move 1,000 needles? It does exactly 1,000 damage. Why isn't it doing that? That's really strange. It's not doing that. It's a weirdly easy battle. And then later, I get a quest that tells me to go back to the place where I fought the Cactuar. And I do, and there's a giant Cactuar, like the size of a building. And it's really funny. And he messes with Saz again. And then it's a boss battle. And this one does do 1,000 needles, except I misremembered. It's not 1,000 needles, it's 10,000 needles.
There is 1,000 needles, but sometimes Cactuars in some games also do 10,000 needles.
Well, in this game, it's 10,000 needles, and in case you haven't been following, these numbers in this game have gone from small to very, very large, but not so much that my characters have more than around 4,000 health.
Yeah.
So you cannot beat that battle at this moment in the game. But it is a very funny side quest where the biggest fucking Cactuar in the world shows up and Saz flips this shit. I'm done.
Yeah, I didn't take any notes about that scene with Vanille and Hope because I was like, nothing important happens here, and Maddie Grace said in the host chat that she liked it, so she'll probably want to talk about it, so I'll just leave that to her.
Good job, well done.
Yeah. So I did a side quest that included fighting a boss called Mithridates.
Mhm.
Anyway, it was very hard, and it was the hardest fight I've had in this game so far. And
That was one of the marks.
yeah, that was the one. If you did it, it was the one in the tower when you have to go from the top of the tower down to the bottom, and then it
that
appears.
one was so fucking hard. I
Yeah.
did beat it, but good lord.
Yeah, I had to do a lot of strategizing, and I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, you had to get the whole fucking quest to even unlock it. Yeah, it's a really good one.
Yeah, I really liked there. So when you first get here, you basically only can survive the tiny wolves and the goops, and you kind of have to do enough of those to survive the other things. And one of the first like big old marks that you take down and you feel really good is like a giant wolf, and he's real big, and you feel awesome. You're like, hey, I just took down this big ass wolf and everything's good. So then the next mark is just for one of the little penguin shamans, and you're like, psh, I can go do that, no problem, except it's a summoner one, and he summons two of the big ass wolves. And it felt every game does this, and it's super cool. Going back all the way to Dragon Quest I, having green dragons in the fucking Dragon Lord's Keep, but like fighting this big ass thing that took me forever to survive. Now there's two of them just as a summon for a different monster is always great, and it's always
there's
good.
a lot of interesting little storytelling in these battles. I just thought of another one where it's the one where you're saving all the chocobos. It's like you're fighting it's like three normal guys, and then one of the things, sometimes there'll be an enemy where it's like, here's three of the same enemy, and then one that's like, it's not a palette swap, it's actually a different model, but it's like, yeah, a bigger, stronger version of the same enemy. You're doing that, and they're all like, they're what's the classic Final Fantasy water monster? In this game, they look like water chocobos. Whatever. Sahagin, yeah, Sahagin, yeah.
Sorry, I was on mute because I was blowing my nose.
I actually called them water chocobos because that's what they looked like to me, and my partner was like, Sahagin, you utter fool. Anyway, and then, so you're like four guys. That's not too bad, right? You either fight the three and then hit the boss, or if the three are really getting you just go for the boss right away, right? Be aggressive. But it turns out that these three little guys, or maybe they're just two, they're not super easy to kill. They have a decent chunk of health. They summon buddies, and they each summon like 4 buddies, and the buddies are very weak and very small, and they attack very fast, and they immediately just overwhelm you. And it's like, it's such a surprise. It's such a little story. What are these? How do I deal with them? It turns out in this case, the answer was Ruinga.
Yeah.
Y'all got Ruinga?
Ruinga rules.
Ruinga is fucking amazing. It's just ruin all, except no. The fact that it does damage isn't the point. The point is that it does a big fucking explosion and knocks everyone into the air, which when you're fighting like 9 enemies at once means you get to breathe for a second. Yeah. That's the issue, that it delays their action with its big-ass explosion. I noticed the AI doesn't like to use the gust belts because I think, objectively speaking, they don't do as much damage. Mm-hmm. It's like, no, it delays all the enemies, dude.
Yeah. I noticed a lot of weird things about the AI this week, like what it chooses when, especially as a Ravager. And so, like, I almost always want to do 5 fires instead of 2.5 Firas. Like, every time I want the more damage. But if like an enemy gets staggered, especially like when they get staggered, I want to hit them hard, but like I want to hit them hard like aggressively and not necessarily just casting off big spells because they take forever to get off.
They take too long. Yeah.
And so I noticed watching like my auto battle selection, watching that change and stuff like that. So, but one of the last missions to get the teleporter, like in Erba, is like 500 little Murloc looking motherfuckers, and so I go in there the first time, and they just overwhelmed me right away, because 9 turns is a lot, and they happen to all go after lightning and take me down. So the second one, I switched my default paradigm to include lightning as a commando, which I haven't used her as a commando in forever, for the reasons we discussed earlier. And the first thing she did was Ruinga, and I won the battle. It's like I went from being crazy overwhelmed and died very quickly to I won after casting a single spell, and it was amazing.
Yeah, this game has a really cool escalation where the spells aren't just like it does more damage. It's like, no, this is a giant fucking lightning blast from on heaven, and most importantly, it lifts all the enemies into up into the ground for like up into the air for like 3 seconds.
Yeah. Yeah, as me and Bernard were talking several times off mic, this battle system is really good. It's so unlike every other JRPG in a very unique way, where I get if you were going in expecting Final Fantasy VII and you got this, you wouldn't like it. Yeah. But as a raid leader simulator, it's kind of really awesome.
Yeah, and as someone who and as in a context of an industry where like there's so many quote unquote like best practices for quote unquote good game design or correct game design, mostly coming from Western studios. It's like, if you don't do it this way, you're wrong. You know, you see so many games that it's like, I've ranted this before. Anytime I play a game where it's very clear that the roles are DPS, tank, and and healer, I'm just like, this is just the same. Like, my brain is doing the same calculations that they do in every fucking game, right? Mm-hmm. Like, I'm weighing the same variables. It's the same ideas, no matter what you might try to dress it up as. And then like you got like Dragon Quest has its own separate vibe that it's been developing for the last like 30 years. It's also the same thing every time, but it's a different thing. Final Fantasy's kind of got a thing. So yeah, to see FF13 be like, no, like the whole mental game that you're doing in this game, the whole way that you vibe with it is not any of those. It's a new type of thing, is very commendable, even if they don't always get it right.
Yeah. And like the idea that like there's a difference between a commando and a ravager doesn't exist in everything else. Like flavor wise, it exists. Like, yeah, my fighter is using his sword to do 9999 damage, and my black mage is using a spell to do 9999 damage. But that's both of their jobs is to do 9999 damage. Here, it's like, no. The ravagers, I need to do this specific thing, and the commandos do this specific thing, and then saboteurs and synergists like are vital pieces to the puzzle, and like the dance, I've used that several times. Like the dance of this battle system is really good. Yeah. And I was prepared for this part to be when it sucks, because in Tim Rogers' now admittedly unfair review of Final Fantasy XIII, he says that everyone says the game is better once the battle system opens up, but once you open it up, it lets you realize that it's bad. And I was expecting it to start to hate it here. And there were times where like I was just trying to go over the fucking hallway, and I had to do like 7 battles, and they weren't hard, but they took a long time, and like that kind of sucked a little bit. But that's a level design suck, not the battle system suck. And the battle system still just it's good, and it's very weird, and I don't think most people would find it good, but if you're a weird ass person like we are, you probably would really love this battle system. Here's
my theory about the battle system, and I came to the same opinion as Tim Rogers when I played it before I read his review. I felt the same way, you know, and I think it's this, and I do think there's a problem with the game. I think the game is really good if you're doing low level, like I was doing for a while, because then you really got to engage with it. I also think the game is great if you're going maximalist. I'm gonna do every single quest, because not only does that does trivialize a lot of the battles, but it trivializes them in a fun way, because you're like, how much can I kick this game's ass, right? And break it apart. And you get the higher level quests, the higher level marks, which are like really interesting and weird. I think if you're in the middle, the game doesn't work. Which is definitely where I would have been last time I played. If you're just trying to go through the story, you're not skipping battles, but you're also not doing all the quests. So you're just trying to get through the story. Because if you do that, you can beat every battle, but it will take a while. You're not digging into the mechanics a whole lot, but you're also not really being challenged a whole lot, but also you're not kicking everything's ass by being really smart, but also every battle takes 10 minutes. And I'm like, I'm imagining like, if I wasn't either being super challenged on every single battle or enjoying the fun ways in which I can absolutely dominate enemies as quickly as possible using my fancy advanced techniques and weapons that I crafted and cool loadouts. If I was doing neither of those things and just wanted to see the next fucking cutscene, it would totally be a slog. So I think that might be what's going on here. Or I mean, also I've probably grown and changed and developed better opinions in the last decade. Like, obviously that's true too. But yeah, if anyone out here is thinking about playing the game, I would probably recommend doing one of those two things. Like either skip battles or really dig into it.
Yeah,
I think that it giving you a rating at the end of the battle is really great, because it sort of nudges you to try and really dig into the mechanics and not just beat a battle, but do it as well as possible.
You know what? That's a good way to put it, Bernard. The game is very clearly trying to tell you, this game's got an actual battle system. We really think you should dig into it. We really think you should engage your mind and really actually try to learn it and put some effort in, because there's a lot of reward there if you do. But this is a Final Fantasy game, okay? We're kind of used to mashing X until we see the next cutscene. So if you say, la, 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 I'm not listening, and you don't listen to what the game is subtly trying to tell you to do, then you're not going to have a good time.
Yeah. And that's not to say that, like, I found that using auto battle, where basically I let lightning be controlled by the AI as well as everyone else.
There's auto battle?
The top selection is auto.
Oh, yeah, but you still got to hit X. Okay, yeah. I thought you meant like you don't even have to do that.
No. But like doing that is plenty in most cases, because the meat of the battle system is actually when you hit L1 and you are picking your paradigms, and that's part of it. And so I forget what my point was, but it was about the mashing X of it all. So it's like, because you have to tell it to auto battle every turn, you're still mashing X a lot, but it's because that's not the important part of it anymore. If you didn't paradigm shift, dig into that system, I can't imagine having a good time here at all.
Yeah, totally.
Anything else anyone wants to say before we wrap it up?
I really liked Vanille and Sarah's little romantic beach date. I thought it was a really nice scene, and I just overall really like Sarah. I feel like she is a very good, I guess, damsel in distress who we want to save. She's a very effective, like, person that is everyone's motivation. I think they do a really good job with her. And I found it interesting when I learned she was originally going to be a party character, like way early in development.
Weird.
But they changed that a lot.
Yeah.
So, I mean, clearly things changed a lot during the development of this game, because sometimes this game doesn't know what's going on.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I really like Sarah.
Yeah, maybe Snow's constant, like, we gotta save Sarah, was because originally she was currently, like, in trouble, but not turned into a crystal.
I really like Sarah too, because when she, like, knowing that she's the protagonist of the second game and seeing in that first cutscene where she's iced from the very beginning and not a character. I was prepared for me to not care about her and like have to learn to love her in the second game when she actually has screen time. But she's like surprisingly developed for being just the damsel in distress, and I also really like her. I feel like I know her wants and needs from her own mouth and not just what lightning and snow say about her.
I agree. Yeah.
Also, I just really like that in a Final Fantasy game, people are like talking about their boyfriend and their fiance and shit.
Thank God.
Not like Final Fantasy IV, where it's like, Rosa is someone very special to me. It's like, can you just say she's your girlfriend? Like, what's going on?
It's like, buddy, we know y'all just fucked in that like second cutscene in the game. It's not like.
Something plot related, blah blah blah, and Sarah's like, yeah, but then my boyfriend came and blah blah blah, and it was like jarring because
what does it say about these fucking games that a character having a boyfriend and using that word and having a regular romantic relationship with someone that develops in the normal way is somehow so shocking and fresh?
I know.
I mean, that reminds me of the reason why I jokingly, but also not jokingly, but also jokingly, but also not jokingly say that FF15 is the best game in the series is because in my actual lived experience, I've seen that it is an FF game that appeals to normal people. Because it deals with extremely relatable human issues, which is funny considering the like plot of the game. But yeah, just like hanging out with your friends, being kind of sad, having a girlfriend, all that, like all that normal shit, camping, cooking, having a good time, enjoying the good things in life, and your friends like being there for you, and like not them being there for you in like a yelly like anime Kingdom Hearts way, but them being there for you in that like y'all go fishing together, and that's more important. The 10 million times that you and your friends went fishing together and didn't talk about your feelings is more important than the one time they gave you a big speech about believing in yourself, actually.
Yeah.
That's what FF15 is about. Anyway, it's a game that appeals to normal people. And hey, FF13, weirdly enough, very unintuitively, maybe also appeals to normal people. Despite being gestures vaguely the way it is.
I don't have anything else.
One final thing I did, because I was scrubbing through this week's game movie on Gamers Little Playground on YouTube to see if I'd missed anything. I remembered that the big flower field where they have their perfume commercial and lightning attacks Snow for being a bad fiance, they're the most giant dandelions in the entire world, and it's just the thing, and they're just like picking up beach ball sized dandelions and blowing them into the wind, and it's fucking great. And
again,
I wish
it has nothing to do with the conversation. While they're having a talk, they're picking up giant dandelions and posing and then blowing them, and they dissipate in a glimmer of shimmers. And again, it's like that. This is the new scent line.
Yeah, it's fucking dumb. It's fucking great. I love it. But that will do it for the week. If you like what you hear and you want to hear more, you can head on over to www.rpgbook.club, where you can donate to help us unlock the next leg of this Final Fantasy 13 journey. We are already unlocked 13.2. We're currently working on Lightning Returns. We probably will do like 3 or 4 weeks of off time between games, because two podcasts a week is hard. 3 is even worse. So look forward to that. And tune in next week when we go up and do something up in the sky, and we'll be playing chapter 12.
Yeah, there you go. We're not doing any fudging. We don't even know how much happens. It could be as much as nothing. But we're playing chapter 12.
Yeah. And if you have any ideas for top 5 things that you would like for us to talk about, you can come and visit us on the Discord. The link to the Discord is on our website. But
They don't have to be Final Fantasy related, because if they did, we would be doing Final Fantasy top 5s through all of 13.2 and all of Lightning Returns, and I don't think there's that many things in Final Fantasy.
yeah, so if you want our top 5 sodas, you want our top 5 colors of Skittle, whatever. I guess I'm hungry. I'm talking about all food things, but yeah, come give us your top 5s and we'll talk about them every week. But for this week, I have been Sam Allman.
I'm David Bernard Houck.
And I'm Maddie Grace Weapon.
Toodaloo, folks.
Goodbye.
Oh, I had something funny I was going to say for the goodbye.
Rip.
I remember what it was, but it wasn't actually funny.